Hello everyone and welcome back to Classic Comics. Today I'm reviewing Wonder Woman 1984. Now this review will have spoilers in it, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you should do that first. Now, this movie was supposed to come out last summer, but of course the coup derailed that. It was rescheduled a couple of times and it was scheduled for Christmas Day, along with being released on HBO Max. So, after a lot of anticipation, was it worth the wait? I'll go over the plot first and then I'm going to give my thoughts on the film. So we start on Themyscira when Diana was still a young girl. She participates in a multi-stage athletic competition on Themyscira against several older Amazons. Diana looks to be around 10 to 12 years old here. Now, at one point, Diana and other Amazons are riding horses, and Diana falls off her horse. After falling from the horse, Diana takes a shortcut to get back onto the horse and then winds up being disqualified. Queen Hippolyta and her aunt Antiope lecture her on the importance of truth because, quote, no hero is born from lies, unquote. We also learn that the competition is to honor an Amazon warrior named Asteria who sacrificed herself in a battle against men thousands of years ago. Asteria wore a suit of golden armor with wings, which we'll see Diana wear later in the movie. The competition is clearly inspired by Diana's original origin, in which she has chosen to become Wonder Woman and go out into man's world after winning a competition against other Amazons. That was the one thing about the first movie that disappointed me a little bit, leaving that part of her origin out. We then jump to 1984, and Diana works as an anthropologist at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington. We see that Diana continues to fight crime as Wonder Woman, but tries to do so anonymously. We also see an infomercial featuring Maxwell Lord, who runs a company called Black Gold Cooperative. In his infomercial, Lord encourages people to invest in his company in order to get rich. At work, she meets Barbara Minerva, a geologist who is very shy and insecure. Then a jewelry shop in a shopping mall is robbed. Now, it turns out that the jewelry shop is trafficking in stolen antiquities, and the robbers steal several of the items they have in storage. After Diana foils the attempted crime, the FBI asks Barbara to identify a cache of stolen items from the robbery. One item that Barbara and Diana both take notice of is a gemstone that has an inscription in Latin which suggests that the stone grants wishes. Then Maxwell Lord visits the Smithsonian under the guise of making a donation. He's after the wish stone, which he covets because he wants to use its wish granting power to save his failing oil company. Both Diana and Barbara unknowingly use the wish stone to fulfill their own wishes. Diana wishes for Steve Trevor to be alive again, causing his soul to take over another man's body, and Barbara wishes to become strong and beautiful like Diana. Later that night, during a gala event at the Smithsonian, she meets Maxwell, who seduces her in order to gain access to her office so that he can take the wish stone. Also at the event, Diane is approached by a stranger who she realizes is Steve Trevor. He's now inhabiting the body of another man, and to everyone else, he looks like the same person except Diana, who sees him as Steve. Once Maxwell Lord has the wish stone, he uses it to wish that he has the power of the stone himself and gains its power to grant wishes, while also being able to gain whatever he desires in return when he grants a wish. Through the power he's gained, Maxwell becomes a powerful and influential figure, but his body begins to slowly die while he also causes chaos as his wishes trigger instability and conflict. Barbara, Diana, and Steve investigate the Wish Stone's powers further and discover that it was created by an ancient god of mischief. We also learn that Asteria's golden armor was found by Diana many years ago and she keeps it in her apartment. Now, Maxwell Lord travels to the Middle East to get control of a sheikh's oil fields, and Wonder Woman attacks his convoy to try and catch him. But he's also able to slip away as Wonder Woman's powers are fading due to the wish that brought Steve back to life. The stone grants a users their wish, but exacts a price. Patty Jenkins and others connected to the movie have stated that this idea was inspired by the short story The Monkey's Paw, which was published in 1902. It's the same basic idea that an object can grant wishes, but it comes at a great price to the person making the wish. The only way to reverse the wish's effects is by renouncing the wish or destroying the stone itself. Diana starts becoming weaker, and Steve realizes that his resurrection has come at the cost of Diana's powers. Maxwell goes to the White House and meets President Reagan and gets him to wish for more nuclear weapons to keep the Soviets at bay, which antagonizes the Soviet Union, and they threaten to start a nuclear war. Maxwell, meanwhile, learns that the military has a new satellite broadcast system that can transmit signals globally and decides to use it to grant wishes to the entire world. Diana and Steve arrive at the White House and again try to capture Maxwell Lord, but Barbara intervenes to stop them because if they undo the wishes Maxwell Lord has granted, she'll lose the power she's gained. Barbara then joins forces with Maxwell to prevent Diana from stopping him. Steve convinces Diana to renounce her wish and let him die, allowing her to regain her strength because she can't defeat Barbara without them. She returns home and puts on Asteria's armor, then heads to the broadcast station and fights Barbara, who has now transformed into a cheetah-like creature. After defeating Barbara, Diana confronts Maxwell and uses her lasso of truth to communicate with the world through him, convincing everyone to renounce their wishes. She also shows Maxwell a vision of his son, Alistair, wandering through the streets as chaos ensues from his fulfillment of everyone's wishes and being killed in a nuclear war along with everyone else. This makes Maxwell realize that the world is going to be destroyed in a nuclear war due to his actions, and he renounces his wishes, returning the world to what it was before he started granting wishes. Then during the end credits, we get an extra scene. We see a woman with long brown hair, her back to the camera, so we can't see her face, but we're clearly supposed to think this is Diana. She's walking through a crowd during some kind of festival when a large pole tips over and is going to hit a mother and her child. The woman raises her hand and catches the pole. Some men grab the pole and set it down while the woman continues walking. The mother chases her down to thank her and asks her what her name is. The woman then turns around and it's Linda Carter, who played Wonder Woman back in the 70s. She smiles and says that her name is Asteria, which is the name of the Amazon warrior that the Golden Armor belonged to, and the film ends there. So, what to make of this film? The first thing I want to address is some of the rumors surrounding the film before it opened. Patty Jenkins and others involved with the film said that it was critical of Donald Trump and that it was a very feminist film. So is the film anti-Trump or woke? Well, my answer to that would be yes and no. Is Maxwell Lord supposed to be Donald Trump? Again, people connected with the movie have said as much, but really, aside from having his hair dyed a blonde color, there's really nothing about Maxwell Lord that is a direct comparison to Donald Trump. By the way, if you're familiar with the comic book version of Maxwell Lord, the movie version is a completely different character aside from the name. Maxwell Lord's story is that he's created this company called Black Gold Cooperative, which is an oil company to be publicly held by individual shareholders. We see commercials with him encouraging people to invest in his company, and then they'll get rich and all their dreams will come true. Now, it turns out that he's a con man and all of his company's oil wells have come up dry. But the film actually works to make him sympathetic. We see him interacting with his son, and you see his past and that he grew up poor and struggled for years to become successful. He doesn't seem like a character that started out evil. Initially, he just wants to not be a failure and save his company, but power corrupts and all that. To me, Maxwell Lord reminds me of other people who were doing various types of infomercials during the 80s, like Tom Vu. If you don't know who Tom Vu is, during the 80s and early 90s, he appeared in a series of infomercials hawking a real estate course or something like that that you could buy and learn how to get rich quick like he did. He would always be on a yacht surrounded by a bunch of hot chicks in bikinis and say, "You can get rich like me by investing in distressed properties." Maxwell Lord seems more based on him and others like him than on Donald Trump. Also, at one point in the movie, an Egyptian sheikh wishes that he could keep the foreigners out of his kingdom, and a big wall appears. A big wall. Who else wants a big wall? Oh, right, Donald Trump does. But how about the feminist stuff? Is that in the movie? Is it woke? Well, these things are present, but it's fairly low key. The feminist stuff is mainly present in that, aside from Steve, every male character seems to be negative. Throughout the movie, Diane and Barbara are repeatedly hit on by men, and they vary from obnoxious to rapey. The first couple of times, it's kind of like, whatever, but it gets a bit old after a while. One of the things about the first Wonder Woman movie that made it so likable is that it didn't treat men as the problem. Men weren't shown as the enemy. The film was about a strong female hero, but it invited men to come along for the ride. This one, not so much. It didn't ruin the movie for me, but it was definitely there. So those elements are present, yes, but they won't bother you unless you're just determined to be bothered by them. To be fair, the character of Steve is actually very positive. Judging from the trailers, I thought they were just going to make Steve into a clown, but they didn't, which I was glad to see. As for the plot of the film, it is all over the place. In a way, it reminds me of a Silver Age comic book story. A lot of things just seem to happen and don't make a lot of sense. The plot jumps around seemingly at random. The whole wish granting plot is really confusing. It's never really clear how the wishing stone actually works. We're told that the wishes come with a price, but we only see that affect a couple of characters. Others seem to get their wishes without any consequences. When Diana wishes for Steve to be alive again, he possesses the body of this other guy. I don't think we ever even get his name. Diana doesn't know him. She doesn't seem to have any connection to him, so why this guy exactly as opposed to someone else? Why didn't Steve just reappear in his own body? Again, it's confusing how these wishes are supposed to work. Then there are the moral implications surrounding Steve taking possession of this guy's body. Neither Steve nor Diana seem concerned about what has happened to the consciousness of the man Steve is inhabiting. Is he dead now? What impact is Steve replacing him going to have on this guy's life? When Diana and Steve sleep together, does that mean that Diana has raped the guy? Wonder Woman 84 isn't interested in addressing any of these questions. Even for a comic book film, this film asks you to accept a lot of things that stretch believability. At one point, Diane and Steve need to get to the Middle East, so they go to a Smithsonian facility where a lot of planes are stored. They take a jet fighter and they fly it to Egypt. So we're supposed to believe that this plane, which is a museum piece and has presumably been sitting around for quite a while, is not only in good repair and ready to fly, but it's also fueled up and just ready to go. Not only that, but we're also supposed to believe that this jet fighter can fly from Washington, D.C. to Egypt without refueling. Not only that, but we're also supposed to believe that Steve, who flew a single propeller plane in World War I, can hop into a modern jet fighter and fly it just fine without any training or guidance on how it works. On top of that, Diana is able to turn the plane invisible. She mentions that Zeus, her father, was able to make Themyscira invisible to keep it hidden from men. At least I think that's what she said. Sometimes I have trouble understanding Gal Gadot's dialogue through her accent. Since Zeus was her father, she thinks she could turn things invisible too, and says that she was able to turn a coffee cup invisible once. She concentrates and turns the plane invisible. Now, an invisible plane has long been a part of Wonder Woman's mythology, although it was largely done away with back in the 1980s, but it does pop up from time to time. This is something that happens throughout the film. Diana just seems to develop new powers when the movie needs her to. At one point, she needs to get somewhere quickly and doesn't have the plane. She uses her golden lasso to swing into the sky, then she sees a jetliner in the sky above her and uses the lasso to grab onto it and let it pull her along. But this jetliner is hundreds, maybe thousands of feet above her. How far can this lasso stretch? It only looks to be around 20 feet long most of the time. And I can buy that it can stretch to some degree, but again, what is the limit? It stretches so far to grab that plane, it makes you wonder what the limit is on the thing. Then, after being pulled by the plane, she lets it go and finds that she's able to fly or glide, to be more precise. Again, this is something Wonder Woman has done in the comics. In the Silver Age, she couldn't fly like Superman can, but she could glide on air currents. Typically, she would fly her invisible plane to a location and then have the plane just fly in circles. She could mentally control the plane back then. And then she would glide to the ground to face the villain. In the 1980s, they rebooted her character and she was able to fly just like Superman. But when they did the new 52 reboot, they took the flight power away. So I can accept that she can glide again, but after seeing all these other powers, it just seems like she just develops powers when the plot needs her to have them. Another example of piling one suspension of disbelief on another is Maxwell Lord's powers. He can grant wishes, but only when he's touching someone. Then at the end of the movie, he's going to grant wishes to millions of people at once through this broadcasting array that the military has developed. The dish it uses links to some satellites which broadcast using particle beams. We're meant to believe that since these particle beams are making contact with the people watching the broadcast, that is the same as touching them physically. So Maxwell Lord can grant wishes to all these people at once, which just doesn't make any sense to me at all. As I said before, the whole wishing thing just doesn't make any sense. Also, at the end, Diane is able to talk to all the people Maxwell Lord is speaking to by wrapping her lasso around him. How does that work? I don't even know. Another thing about this movie is that there are several parts that seem to drag on longer than they need to. The competition sequence at the beginning of the movie, when Diane and Steve are in the plane, they fly through this fireworks display, and it just seems to go on and on. The final confrontation between Maxwell Lord and Diana goes on a bit too long as well. Now, as far as the cast is concerned, Gal Gadot is still very appealing in the role of Wonder Woman, but her performance seems a bit more, I don't know, forced here, I guess. I feel like that the movie pushes her to act a bit more than she's really capable of. Kristen Wiig is very meh as the cheetah. She's one of the weak links in this movie. Her character doesn't really serve any vital role in the plot, except that at one point she finds out some information about the stone. Her character is yet another variation on this character is a fan admirer of the hero, then turns against the hero for some perceived slight. Just like in Batman Forever, The Incredibles, and Iron Man 2. The character also resembles the Michelle Pfeiffer version of Catwoman in Batman Returns, but she has less depth to her. She's kind of like a shorthand version of that character. Arguably, the real star of this movie is Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord. He's really good in the role, and it's one of his best performances, in my opinion. He does a great job of making Maxwell Lord sympathetic, but also selfish and increasingly power mad. His increasing desperation as the plot unfolds is about the only thing that really keeps you invested during the latter parts of the film. And that's another thing. The film does a poor job of making the stakes seem real. Reagan wishes for more weapons, and then a lot of new missile facilities suddenly appear around the world. When they discover the new missiles, the Soviets just decide to launch a nuclear strike because, well, because the plot needs them to, I guess. We see people running around in a panic as the missiles are flying, but it all seems strangely disconnected from the plot of the movie. I never felt like anything bad was really going to happen or that anyone was really in danger, which seems like a failure on the part of Patty Jenkins to draw the viewer into the narrative. I did think that Patty Jenkins did a great job with the action sequences in the movie for the most part. The fight at the shopping mall in the beginning and the fight between Diana and Barbara at the White House were all done very well. But the fight between them at the end was very underwhelming. I think part of this is because Cheetah and Wonder Woman aren't all that good a match in terms of powers. I've said before that I've long been puzzled by why Cheetah has emerged over time as Wonder Woman's nemesis. She just doesn't present all that big a threat to Diana on her own. Cheetah has super speed, but so does Wonder Woman. She has super strength, but Wonder Woman is stronger. She's more agile, I guess, and she has claws, but that armor that Wonder Woman wears in the third act of the film pretty much negates the claws, so I never felt like Cheetah was any kind of serious threat to Wonder Woman. She just seems like more of a nuisance than a serious obstacle. As a result, their big showdown at the end isn't compelling at all. It doesn't help that the design of Cheetah is not great, and the CGI seems kind of dodgy as well. Maybe they should have gone with something a little more realistic. So, was this as good as the first Wonder Woman movie? No, it's not. Is it a bad movie? Well, again, even for a comic book movie, it asks you to suspend belief a lot. It just leaves you scratching your head over and over thinking, wait, how does that work? It seems a bit long, and I think at least 10 minutes could have been trimmed from the film pretty easily. Yet it also seems incomplete. It feels like quite a bit was cut from it as the plot just seems to jump around a lot. It's also pretty obvious where the reshoots were done, as Pascal and Wiig's hair seemed to suddenly get darker towards the end of the film as if they didn't have their dye jobs retouched when the reshoots were done. So overall, a disappointing film. I'd give the first Wonder Woman 4 out of 5 stars. This one, I'd probably give maybe 3 stars, maybe 2.5. So let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments, and if you found this review informative, please hit the like button. Also, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.